Ever since the announcement of Dancing Mad Ultimate, I've never been more excited for an Ultimate release. Knowing the fact that one of the best villains in game media would be adapted in some of my favorite content to play in 14 just makes me stare at the calendar waiting for the release date to come. Not only that, Kefka's getting voice acting as well.
This is meant to be our ultimate encounter!
Ever since I played Final Fantasy VI, I have never been more invested in a villain overall than I have been with Kefka. That being said, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VI, I heavily recommend playing it, as it's one of the best story games I've ever played. The port from FF6 to 14 felt amazing. Even the statue of the gods is accurate to FF6, despite our Warring Triad from 14 being a little different than the ones in FF6. This will actually be one of the first comparisons I go over. In this video, I will be comparing lots of aspects from FF6 to 14, going over the looks of each boss, the mechanics, and overall just showing how faithful the adaptation was. I do stream on Twitch and I will be trying to upload more to this channel. If you'd like this style of video, please feel free to drop a like so I know to continue making them. And without further ado, here are the comparisons. This section will be quicker as there are not many differences with the Warring Triad. I'll go through it somewhat fast since obviously the meat is Kefka. The first primal we will be going over is the Fiend, otherwise known as Sephiroth. In FF14, Sephiroth attacks mainly using Earth and Wind magic, while in FF6 he attacks mainly using Ice magic. Looks-wise, the major difference is Sephiroth does not have legs in FF6, while in 14 he does. The next primal we will be looking at is the Goddess, otherwise known as Sophia. In FF6, Sophia does use some lightning, just like in 14, but the one difference is in FF6, she uses charm spells on the party. In 14, however, the unique thing is she attacks using Scales of Judgment to knock the player around the arena. Here is one example. Looks-wise, she does maintain her statue-like look in 14, however in FF6 she looks a lot more human. The last primal we will be looking at is the Demon, otherwise known as Zervan. In FF6, Zervan uses fire magic and attacks with his halberd, using attacks such as Metal Cutter. In 14, Zervan attacks basically the same with the addition of ice magic to his arsenal. Looks-wise, Zervan has close to no differences, making this by far the most faithful adaptation of the Warring Triad into 14. And that concludes the Warring Triad. Now, for the part you've been waiting for. Kefka. Where should I even begin? One of the most ruthless villains I have ever seen. From torching a town for little to no reason, to poisoning an entire village's water supply for the fun of it. The man who almost ended the world, made it further than any villain ever does. Kefka has one of the most iconic looks in media, donning clown makeup and clothing. While we are at this point, let's go ahead and compare the looks. On the left we have Kefka's sprite from FF6 and the art from his dialogue boxes. On the right, we have his FF14 looks. Aside from some slight color changes, we can see they basically nailed the port, or maybe even improved it with the new color scheme. Throwing in a little fun fact here, Kefka was also the first mage in Final Fantasy VI since the War of the Triad. This is only due to experiments from the Gestalian Empire though. We can only assume that Kefka's madness is due to the experiments performed on him. Or maybe he just developed a god complex due to the power he held after. Now that all that is taken care of, let's move on to the magic similarities now. Kefka in FF6 in both of his fights pre-god form uses fire, lightning, poison, confusion, and ice magic. There isn't many clips due to Kefka getting short fights in his normal form, but doing research on the wiki and watching some of these fights, I can confirm this is accurate. Each of these magics are also used in 14, even the confusion magic, which is used in the form of question marks on Kefka's mechanics. This will be shown here in around 10 seconds in the video in the background. The major difference, however, is that throughout Kefka's fight in 14, he uses the Statue of the Gods to assist him. What is the Statue of the Gods, you may ask? The Statue of the Gods is all of the Warring Triad put into one statue that Kefka uses in his encounter pre-God form. Each phase of Kefka's final fight in FF6 will have you fight this statue. The statue descends from the heavens after each one is damaged enough. The same happens in 14, but the major difference is actually getting to fight Kefka while dealing with the statue in the background. The statue inflicts charm and all of the magics used by the Warring Triad in FF6. The statue being used for mechanics leads to a very fun and interesting fight in 14. Definitely one of the best Savage fights I have ever done in my personal opinion. But overall, that's mostly it covering normal Kefka. Now, for the last section of this video. Life, dreams, hope. Where do they come from? And where do they go? The transition used to go into this section is from FF6, showing Kefka's ascension to godhood. While I continue to yap, I will now play the one from 14, which is close to identical to the one from 6. God-Kefka, the man who achieved every goal and even ascended to godhood. This is one of the most memorable fights I have ever experienced. Seeing how a villain who finally achieved everything he wanted, and how it transformed him overall as a person. It gives an indescribable feeling of excitement when you finally get to this fight. Not even just the levels of excitement. God-Kefka's design is amazing itself. In 14, it captures exactly what you think FF6 God-Kefka would look like if he was 3D instead of 2D. But looks aside, let's get into God-Kefka's magic. God-Kefka has many moves that were adapted near perfectly from FF6 to 14, just like his ascension. First, to list the attacks I will be covering. Heartless Angel, or Heartless Archangel, Trine, Forsaken, Hyperdrive. All of these attacks are adapted over to 14, and as per the listing, we will be looking at Heartless Angel first. Heartless Angel is a mechanic which drops all party members' HP to 1. If not healed up enough, Kefka will kill the party with the next instance of raid-wide damage. The only difference is that in FF6, Heartless Angel does spawn actual angels right in front of the party before your HP is dropped to 1. The next attack I will be going over is Trine. Trine in FF6 shows an animation of a triangle spinning on the screen before hitting the party with an instance of raid-wide damage. While in 14, Trine shows a triangle rotating and falling onto the arena. After this point, the trines will explode on all corners of the triangle, in the order of which they fell from the sky. Besides this, the final difference is that there can be big and small triangles in 14, making the size of the explosions different. The next attack is Forsaken. Forsaken is a hard-hitting instance of raid-wide damage with a unique cast on screen. It does play a unique sound effect as well, which I love a lot, and will play now. This sound effect is actually not in the pixel remaster of FF6, despite being in previous versions of FF6. The animation for the pixel remaster as well has changed. The original looks a lot like 14's, while FF6 pixel remaster looks completely different. One more thing to note with Forsaken is in FF6, after the cast start, a text box will appear that says "The end draws near," before showing a red Kefka-like head on screen. This head is in 14 as well, but has a more mechanical approach, as the head will slowly float towards the players then explode on contact. And finally, for the last attack, Hyperdrive. Unfortunately, I could find no footage from FF6 that has Hyperdrive due to the speed that people kill God-Kefka. This is due to the fact that most people start the God-Kefka fight once they are already max level and as strong as they can already be. Hyperdrive in 14 is just a hard-hitting tank buster that hits the target who has main aggro with a golden beam-like attack. This attack will also inflict a bleed. And that is all the comparisons I'll be going over. Thank you so much for watching. This is my first time putting a lot of time and effort into a video like this, so it really means a lot that you made it to the end. As I said before, please leave a like if you enjoyed what you saw and comment what you would like to see on the next video. As said at the beginning, I do stream on Twitch, so please drop by and leave a follow. Later.